Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, actually, for this conference. I'm going to talk today about automation is simple now using DevOps. I'm going to choose actually, like, as you know, most of you, like, there are a couple of automation tools that has been trending in the last, like, 5 years or 6 years. I choose actually two so far to talk about today, which is Ansible, because it's working on cloud and on-prem, and Terraform. So to introduce myself, very quickly, I am the founder and CEO of a Guru Solution Company. I am the leader for Jordan Amman Oracle User Group. The first Oracle is Director, certified different cloud provider. I do a lot of automation, and you can check my GitHub as well. Start working as a database administrator and still working with different databases. Author for two books as well, and contribution in different communities, especially Oracle One. This is the two books. I'm going to skip like very quickly what we're going to talk about today, actually, which is we're going to talk about the DevOps in general. What is the DevOps? Why I need to use DevOps, and what is the concept, and when to use DevOps actually. How to DevOps gonna make like not the DBA life only easier, but the system administrator, the different people actually, and the automation example that we're gonna talk about. And the question answer, in case, for example, that you have like question during the presentation, you can drop a message and chat, and we will answer also quickly, like on a brief, instead to leave it in the last presentation. So we're going to talk about like the DevOps in general. The concept of the DevOps actually has been appearing in the last like more than 20 years, but it has been trending in the last 10 years. The DevOps, as you know, it's like shortcut or referred to development operation, and it's solved the gap between the development team and the operation team. As we all know, for example, if the development team like need to create a server or do a deployment and so on, they will go to the infrastructure team or the operation team, and the fight will start actually why you need the server and so on. So this actually, the DevOps concept solved this issue for the both team with the automation and with the agile methodology as well. So no, let's say more like doing the manual task, and it's all about automation so far. And this has allowed the company actually to do a couple of things. They need like allow them, for example, to focus on the quality of the code, allow them to focus on for example, the quality of the infrastructure and enhance the infrastructure, either it was on-prem or on the cloud. The evolution of the DevOps, it has been actually created like or since 1955. It's not a new concept, but as I mentioned, actually it has been trending in the last like 10 years. The DevOps actually has been created by a group of people, which is generated actually this concept. And the first one, or the first live conference, has been like I think in 2003 in France or Swiss. I don't remember actually exactly when. The concept or the hashtag actually of the DevOps has been generated by one of the developer over there in the conference, and since then it has been using actually till so far. And as I mentioned, it's referring to development and operation. So like when you are hearing, for example, like development and operation, so you're gonna know it's DevOps. And there are a different category for DevOps as well. So you have CI/CD, you have configuration management, or you have infrastructure as code as well. Each one of them actually using different tools. For example, for CI/CD, you have the most common one, which is Jenkins. You have also Circle CI, you have TeamCity as well. And you have also, for example, for configuration management, which is Ansible, Chef as well. Each one of them having like different, we're gonna talk about them. Also infrastructure as code, Terraform, the most common used one these days. CloudFormation for AWS, and Resource Manager actually for Microsoft Azure as well. And you have also now new tools, which is considered actually like a new one and accept you to program with any language such as Python, C#, .NET as well. It's called the Plumi. It's very new tools. You can check it actually on their website. I can send it to you, the name, because Plumi. It's new tools that accept programming language, not like a defined of the programming any specific language. The release, let's say, between the DevOps and the operation, it's intersects between the planning and the release one. So for the operation, we are talking about, for example, deploy the task. You are talking about the operation. We're talking about the monitor and so on. And for the operation, for the monitor and operation and deployment, there are also new concept that has been released, which is SRE, sorry, which is actually more related to the infrastructure side. For the development side, you are talking about coding, building this code and testing this code, and the both gonna actually intersect with the release and planning. So with the release, no need actually, for example, the both team gonna do the manual job and so on. So technically they will actually just automate everything and deploy everything automatically. And the cycle for the automation for the DevOps is different from one company to another company. Some of the company, for example, they like using also the automation for testing, using Selenium or any other tools for test automation, and to build that automation test case. There are QA that responsible actually to set with the DevOps and give them the scenario, and all the code actually will be generated depend on this. So in case, for example, like let's assume that the development team create like a new code, it will be uploaded to the version control such as GitHub, Bitbucket, or whatever. Then Selenium gonna work, okay, to test the code. If something actually depends on this, it's gonna be up to development to fix the error and so on. If it's approved, it will go to the Jenkins, and Jenkins actually will wait the merge request. After the merge request, it will be sent notification to the Jenkins and so on. So the cycle itself actually, it's like, let's say, different from one company to another company, but in general, it's gonna look like this. So yes, why I need actually to focus on the DevOps. DevOps usually, like, there are a daily task that we, like, as a system administrator or as a DBA or as an engineer, you are doing it every day on daily basis, such as, for example, check the backup or either the monitor or whatever. So these gonna actually save time for you, okay, to let's say save time, for example, to focus on other things, such as, for example, the quality of the code, the infrastructure, or automate other things of the service. Okay, so this is one of benefits of the DevOps. The other one, which is the speed of the deployment. And instead, for example, of planning for the deployment that usually it will take like 1 day, 2 days, for example, and the cutover and so on, and you need actually to ensure the service is up and so on, it's going to speed all the process, because with Agile, there are, as you know, there are a different approach for implementing this. So one of them, for example, Canary one, A/B testing, and so on. And also, we have like the other one, which is the response, the response rate for the team, especially the operation one. When you are talking about the operation, we are talking about, which is the new concept, which is related to this. For example, SRE is related to the infrastructure. So in case, for example, they have one issue, and instead this issue, for example, will take like a couple of minutes, or for example, to solve for 1 hour and so on, the team will be actually response to the issue much faster, because like the system will be monitored and everything is going to be automated. Also, the risk of something down, like, as we know, a human interaction like causing a lot of probably errors, which is with the automation, it's running actually on automated side, so no one will be interfere with the cycle and so on. So this is also cause the risk of production change, and so on. And instead of doing the project as one, you are breaking the project into the different phases. So this allows the company also to focus, for example, on the phase and to finish the phase as a best practice as well. And when we talk about the DevOps, there are also a concept that comes with the DevOps, which is called Agile. Agile, it's like the process that run the DevOps. It's based on the DevOps methodology. So technically, the DevOps, it's like focus on the technical side. Agile, it's focused on the project management side. DevOps, it's a merge as between development operation and the operation itself. Agile, it's focused to link like between these two teams and to focus, for example, on the sprints, let's say, such as Scrum and as well. DevOps, for example, also focus on the stability, availability, also automation, and so on. Agile is focused, for example, how you're going to deploy like this focus. For example, with the canary, like it's one of the methodology that you are following with the DevOps, okay? It allows you, like, for example, in case of the deployment, instead like of deploy 100%, let's assume that you are running Kubernetes in the company, and instead, for example, or deploy all the application to the Kubernetes that probably you did not test. So you're going to start actually with 10%, 20%, 30% till you're going to reach the 100%, depend on the plan that you are putting actually with the project management and in the company. Also, like DevOps, it's focused on all the aspects such as the development, the operation, the QA, how the infrastructure, how you're going to deploy this, the automation, and so on. In Agile, it's focused actually on the daily communication between the people, such as, for example, like communication between the development or the communication between the operation and so on. The main goal for actually DevOps as well, it's like the speed the process for the whole cycle for the company, which is deployment cycle. With the Agile, you are focused on delivery more than actually the technical side. So that's actually the difference between the DevOps and the Agile. So both of them is totally different. And how DevOps actually solving the problem, like, okay, I use DevOps in the company, but how it's going to solve my problem? For example, there are repeating tasks every day. Instead of doing this repeating task actually on daily basis, okay, you can just automate using script, using a tool, and so on, and save time to do this actually. A human interaction also, you are eliminating human interaction. So this is actually allow you to risk, for example, the production errors or the staging or whatever. Also, the settings, for example, as we know, some repeating tasks, such as, for example, creating servers and so on, it's like repeating tasks. So you have either you're going to do it actually on, for example, on-prem or on virtualization and so on. So, for example, one of the projects that I have been working on, it's include this task actually for the development team. Like the company has been asking actually to do like the automation for creating the task, and they are using a VMware as virtualization solution. So instead, for example, the development gonna send an email and so on, I created like a web page using Node.js. It's very web page that allowed the developers, for example, to fill a couple of the information, such as, for example, like the name of the server, how many CPU, how many RAMs he needs, like, or she needs, the purpose of this server, and submit this form, for example. In the background, this form actually gonna go to the manager. Once the manager is gonna approve this cycle or the server of the creation, the process actually gonna start automatically without any, for example, interference from any human. It's gonna go actually to the VMware. There is a template in the VMware actually for like the most common servers that they are using in that company, and it's gonna actually create the server over there without actually like interfere with any person. And after this, like after the provision of the server, the automation also would send an email to the developer that he has been asking for that server with the IP and with a key, and for each, for example, developer has SSH key. All of this also provision using Ansible as well in the company. So zero human interaction as well, no need to interfere with anyone. And I also upload this, for example, on my GitHub. You can find the code over there, and you can find also the Ansible code that it will be working actually to upload the SSH key and merge both of them over there. So using DevOps, for example, I take here over here Oracle as an example, okay, for the DevOps, because like the most common, let's say, also beside the AWS and Azure, there are different, for example, tools that you can use. You can use Terraform, you can use Ansible, Jenkins, Puppet, Chef, Salt, and so on. Each one of these tools actually either gonna be in the same category, or it will be, for example, in different category. Terraform, it's related to the infrastructure as code. Ansible, it's related to the configuration management. Jenkins, CI/CD, Puppet, Chef, Salt, also to configuration management. But there are a difference between each one of them. For example, Terraform over here, it's agentless, and it's, for example, focused on the admin part more as infrastructure as code. It has its own language. I don't call it as a programming language, to be honest. It's like more scripting one. Ansible, it's the power of this, for example, tools, it's agentless, so no need actually to install any agent on the other server to make it work. It's focused also on the configuration management, such as, for example, automation for the patching, for the installation of this upgrading the servers, upgrading the database. For example, I upload also to my GitHub. You can find my GitHub, which is username Osama Oracle. You can find also over there Ansible code that, for example, gonna upgrade or patching the operating systems automatically and upgrading the database automatically. So no need actually for also interfere with this. Jenkins also, it's CI/CD tools for the deployment also. It's agentless. Puppet and Chef, it's considered a very complicated tools. Like you have, like especially Chef, actually, you will not, the community is very like small for the Chef and Puppet, but it's very powerful tools as well. It's working with different platform and working also with different approach. Salt, it's gonna be work agent or agentless, for example. It's also same as Puppet, Chef, Ansible, but it's depend on the case that you are gonna have. So probably you need to install agent, probably not. And it's focused like on the administration part more than the development and Chef. For example, you can integrate Chef with Jenkins. You can integrate Chef actually with TeamCity or Circle CI, but you need to write something called Chef cookbook, which is actually allow Chef to understand what it's gonna do during the deployment. Like in case you have any question, we have any question over there? So far, no. So let's talk about Ansible. I don't know actually how many of you used Ansible before. Like you can say in the chat, like if anyone using Ansible. With Ansible, we are having like the main server, which is like for, you're gonna install like the Ansible one, the Ansible server. And with the Ansible server, you have two concepts that you're gonna hear actually along with Ansible, which is inventory and the playbook. With the inventory, okay, you define the server that you have in the company. For example, you have like 10 servers for the web server. So you're gonna actually group them as you see over there, group A, and you're gonna put all the servers over there. For example, 5 for databases and so on, like caching and so on. With the playbook, it's like advanced level of the Ansible that allow you to write a custom configuration, let's say, to do something in the company, such as, for example, upgrade, patching, install the operating system. Each like Ansible, how it's going to talk with the host in the group. It talk using actually SSH for the Linux, and for the Windows, it's using Win, HCP. So it's different from the both. But you define all of them, the way of communication actually in the inventory, or you can find them actually during the the command line on spot. So either this one or this one. So the powerful actually of the Ansible, which is agentless. So you don't have to install any agent at all using the Ansible. There are a couple of concepts you will hear actually, which is, for example, PlayBook. You're gonna hear about the rules. You're gonna hear about the variable as well. Each one of them actually of this having like a different approach. We're gonna talk them also later. There are two levels of the Ansible. The advanced one, which is depending on the playbook, and you need actually to have like a good knowledge how to write YAML file, because the playbook it's based in the YAML file, and the YAML it's like shortcut for yet another markable language. So you need to know actually the concept of the YAML to write actually playbook, a good one. There are also probably in case you're gonna write playbook, you're gonna use like something called variable in case you need to make your code or YAML file more dynamic as well. You're gonna use also rules, which is allow Ansible to understand what it's gonna do based on what from the name, as you see rules. Ad-Hoc, it's the basic level of the Ansible. It's a predefined module in Ansible that allow Ansible, for example, to understand what it's going to do. For example, you need to create server user on this servers. Okay, no need to write a playbook for this. Ansible providing a predefined module. For this, you can actually use it. Or for example, you need to install something or run a command, for example, on Ansible. Also, this is a predefined module. In case, for example, you need to copy a file, also this is a predefined module in Ansible. There are more than 100 predefined modules in Ansible. All of them, it's predefined in the documentation as well of the Ansible. The installation, it's very simple for the Ansible. All you have, for example, for Red Hat, all you have to do, it's like predefine the repository in the Linux, and after this, you can install Ansible as well. Ubuntu as well, you need to define the repository and then install using apt get Ansible. Or you can install it using pip command, which is responsible for Python packages as well. Or in case you need actually to do or install it by yourself, you can actually just clone the project from the GitHub and run the source and then install the Ansible itself as well. And you need to remember, which is Ansible actually, it's using SSH and Linux. So you need actually to work and predefine the SSH as passwordless, so it will not ask you actually for the password. This is, for example, predefined modules that has been exist in the Ansible, which is called ad-hoc, as a copy, as you see, which is predefined module, CPNM, for example, managing the Perl library in the Linux, the users, CPM user, which is give you the status. A cron, you can probably manage, create a cron on different servers at the same time. There are also predefined, other than the on-prem, there are also predefined for the cloud one, such as Azure or EC2. So you could, for example, run, for example, like create EC2 instance on Microsoft, on AWS, or you can create, for example, virtual machine on Azure. All of this actually it's a predefined module, so no need to write playbook for them. It's already predefined. How to use it? Okay, to use it, probably you're gonna run Ansible. Okay, the command line and which modules, and then the inventory that you're gonna use in Ansible. We're gonna like taking this, for example, like I need to report 100 server, okay, or 10 server or whatever. What I'm going to use, for example, I'm going to define the web server in the inventory, as I mentioned before, in the group, okay, and I'm going to, for example, call this group, okay, Ansible web server, okay, and run the command, which is reboot for the Linux. So all the 10 web server, it will be rebooted. I can move the files between like servers as well. So I need to move them, for example, also in like, let's say, web inventory or database inventory, or from one to one. So what I'm going to do, for example, Ansible using the inventory group, what I'm gonna do, using copy module, the source over here and the destination where I need to copy the file as well, or create the user as well, which is allow me to create a user. So I'm gonna use, for example, Ansible. The inventory, for example, is called all. Okay, and the user that I need to create, the name of the user and the password over there. So the user will be created in the all server under group all. The playbook, which is the second part actually of the Ansible, and it's considered very advanced one. It's like, this is one actually that has been taken from one of my playbook. You can find it also. I upload everything to my GitHub, so no need to keep saying this. This one, for example, it's installing Oracle products such as Golden Gate. Okay, as a brief, as you can see, this is the name. This is the file, as you see, it's YAML file. Okay, so like you need to know it depends on the indentation in the code and so on, and so far. But my advice actually to use VS Code, and inside the VS Code there is extension called YAML that allow you actually to, it's gonna do the indentation for you automatically. Over there, for example, this is the name of the YAML file. What it's gonna do? So gather the fact. The facts actually, it's like a variable inside them, allow you to do something, okay, or changing depending on the environment. What host I'm gonna run, for example, the installation on the YAML, the task that it will do. I'm gonna, for example, create the first task, which is create the home for the installation part. It's gonna, for after this, unzip the file, the second directory over there, the comments. What it will do, as you see over here, this is anything between a bracket over there is considered as a variable. So it's depending on the server location. It will bring the variable out from over there, and after this, actually install it. The owner, the user and the owner, for example, over there, for example, the directory and the zip file or the media that will be uninstalled. Over here, actually, you need to define what is the location of the media and upload it to either to, for example, to the Ansible server, and allow Ansible server to copy this media to another server. Okay, but you need to write another task, or for example, you can use Ansible predefined module and copy this to the Ansible server, to the hosts over there. Then it's gonna start the installation as well, depend on the code that you are putting. So this is actually a brief, like small, considered small playbook. There are another one which is depending on the patching. Also, this one also another example, like you can install databases as well using Ansible. For example, you need to write like predefined playbook. This is the structure of the playbook as you see over here. This is the file, the task, the main one, and the template that it will be used, and then the variable is defined under variable main.yaml. After this, it will be installed, for example, 2 servers only, consider server 1 and server 2. And I defined over here in the inventory called the inventory location, and you need to be careful about this. The inventory location for Ansible, it's under ATC Ansible hosts, not ATC hosts. So over here, you're going to open the file and define these servers. As you see over here, I create 2 groups, server 1, which is related to the managed server 1 and server 2. And then I create another group for all the server for the database. Here, another example, but using the cloud one, using Ansible. This is allow, for example, to generate SSH automatically, send the private key to the user. After this, gonna, for example, generate or launch the instance or the compute instance in the cloud. So either it's gonna be, for example, OCI, Microsoft, or AWS. It will work with Ansible, no problem. With also, you can also, like, this is predefined module I mentioned. Actually, I choose to mention it over here since it's a new module that allow like Ansible to set up the autonomous database. And it's as you see over here, this is the link. It's predefined, so all you have to do actually is install this playbook and, for example, change the variable depending on your setup. for this. You can also delete object from Ansible, like from the cloud as well. So in case you need to delete, for example, the bucket, you need to delete, for example, like an instance or any other service in the cloud. Also, you can use Ansible instead of doing it in the manual way. The second powerful tools, which is I prefer it, to be honest, it's Terraform. Terraform, it's infrastructure as code. And for the people who does not know infrastructure as code in the old days, we used actually to go, for example, and this also only work on the cloud. So it's just to let you know, not working actually on a prem. So in the old days, we use actually to go, for example, and provision everything in the cloud in the manual way. So you need to set up the network first. You need to do everything manual. You need to set up and install, for example, or configure the instance manual. And you need after this to access to the instance and install whatever technology stack you're going to use, such as Nginx and so on. All of this is going to take actually a time for you to do it. Okay. And after a while, like repeating this task 5-6 times, probably it's going to be boring for any one of us. So Terraform solved this issue. For example, it's by coding. So at first, you program everything for the infrastructure, for the networking, for the servers, what you're going to have inside the servers, and so on. And you have two ways actually to do it in Terraform. Either you're going to do it in static way or you're going to use it in dynamic way. So in case like you're going to install or using Terraform in different times, okay, let's say. So I prefer to use it using the dynamic way. So instead of keep changing the code multiple times. So this is allow you to provision everything, okay, once within like seconds, minutes, like it will not take times, okay. The powerful of Terraform, okay, which is allow anyone in the operation team or in the company to track the changes that's happening in the infrastructure. So if someone, for example, like needs to build or launch or change anything in the network or the subnets and so on, most of the company following approach that you need actually to change the Terraform and then provision the code. And this is allow to track the code in your company and what has been changed recently in the infrastructure. Instead, for example, anyone can do whatever they need using the Terraform. And it's running most of the operating system, Windows, Solaris, like Linux, Ubuntu. The installation is very simple. All you have to do is apt, for example, get and install Terraform. There are also, as you see here, over here, a couple of the project built on Terraform. And when I mean actually a completed project, like project that it's completed from the development side to till you're going to have a full cycle of the deployment. Either it's an AWS or Microsoft Azure or Terraform and so on. So you're going to find it actually over there. The Terraform comments actually is very simple. You have first to run Terraform init, which is allow you to install the provider of the cloud. After this, for example, you gonna run the plan. The plan gonna show you the changes gonna happen or provision to your infrastructure. Either you can implement apply, which is gonna run these changes to the cloud, or if you, in case you need to destroy the changes, okay, then you have to do Terraform destroy. And where it read the changes, so you need to know that everything that has been done by Terraform, okay, it will be destroyed. But anything that you have done it manually on the cloud, you have to go and destroy it manually, because Terraform, when you run Terraform init, it's create a file called stat file. Okay, this stat file having all the configuration for your setup that you're gonna install, and after you're gonna apply actually the changes that has been done on the cloud, the stat file gonna save these changes. When you run a destroy, it's gonna be read from the stat file these changes and destroy them. That's why the stat file is very important, and most of the company actually save it on the bucket in the cloud or on the local as a backup. So this is a very important part of the Terraform. In case you lost the stat, actually, you cannot either run or do anything actually with such as the planning or destroying the code. The Terraform having a different approach. Either you can define everything in one file, for example, call it probably main.tf, or what I prefer actually split the file. For example, in case you have variable, use variable.tf, such as, for example, over here. In case you have like a variable, for example, for the region of the cloud, okay, define it actually under variable. For example, also there are the main one, which is allow Terraform, the file that allow you to understand and allow Terraform to understand what it's gonna do with the cloud as well, and what it will do actually with the cloud. And then after this, you have to do the apply. And some of the people create the provider as well file and the output file for like the IP for the instance after the provision, as you see over here, as the output, the IP of the instance. And or no need, like this file actually is optional, like in case you need to use it, but I prefer actually to keep Terraform as a best practice as well. The data source, actually, it's retrieving the data from the cloud. So in case probably you have something defined in the cloud and you need to use it inside the Terraform, so you can use the data source inside the Terraform as a plug, as you see over here, data. It's allow Terraform to retrieve the things from the cloud and use it in another place in Terraform as well, such as like, let's say, SSH key, probably create SSH key, for example, on the cloud, and you need to use it, okay, in Terraform, so you can use data actually to retrieve this value. This is the best practice of the Terraform structure file, as you see, the main one, which is called all the modules, the local, the data source for the module, the variable that use all the variables that change into Terraform, the output in case you have any output in your code, the Terraform stat. Also, it's not very recommended actually to use it from the Terraform, but in case you do, this is the structure, and there are provider.tf as well that provide which version you are using of Terraform, what cloud provider version you are using as well. This is also another example, very quick one. As you see in the main TF, there are a Terraform version. What version of the Terraform you're going to use? The provider, which is AWS, the region as well. Over here, for example, the security group, it's defined in a Spirit file called security group as well. The resource is creating a security group for inbound, egress, out, egress, actually for the security group as well. And then the deploy the instance. This is a very small one. And inside the instance, as you see, for example, it's echo data inside the index file, and then actually just install HTTP on it. The output as well, it will generate actually the public IP for the web server that has been created. And then we will have the variable, which is going to contain the server ports as well for that we're going to use to run the code. This is the brief for let's say the infrastructure or the DevOps automation. So if you have any question, please drop a message in the chat so we can actually answer or discuss, because we still have like around 5 minutes for the question. Do we have any questions so far? Okay, thank you. Like there is no question so far. In case you have a question, you can contact me actually either on Twitter or LinkedIn or my blog as well. And thank you for participating in this conference and make this conference a great conference. Thank you.